Mom went to pick up groceries and disappeared. 20 years later, her family uncovers the dark truth. The June sun blazed through the kitchen window, casting a warm glow across the counter where Karen Myers was making a grocery list. Outside, sprinklers hissed across freshly cut lawns in their quiet suburban neighborhood, the kind of place where nothing bad ever happened. "Mom, can you get those fruit roll things? The ones with the blue wrapper?" 8-year-old Noah hung on the edge of the counter, his skinny arms barely reaching the top. Karen smiled, adding it to her list. "Blue wrapper fruit rolls. Got it, buddy." 5-year-old Emily tugged at her mother's shorts. "And chocolate milk? Please, Mommy?" "Yes, sweetie." Karen bent down to kiss Emily's forehead, breathing in the scent of baby shampoo that still lingered in her daughter's hair. From upstairs came the sound of the shower running. Tom, her husband of 10 years, was getting ready for his Saturday golf game with colleagues. Lately, those games had been running later and later into the evening. Karen pushed the thought away. "Kids, I'll be back in 30 minutes, okay? Daddy's upstairs if you need anything." She grabbed her purse from the hook by the door. "And don't forget to feed Mr. Whiskers." The cat meowed on cue from his perch on the windowsill, as if understanding his name. Both children giggled. "We won't forget," Noah promised, already distracted by the Saturday morning cartoons blaring from the living room television. Karen stepped out into the driveway, keys jingling in her hand. She slid into the driver's seat of their blue Honda Civic, adjusted the rearview mirror, and backed out onto Maple Street. Just another Saturday in Westfield, Connecticut. Just another quick trip to Super Savers on Main. She never came home. The panic didn't set in immediately. Tom, fresh from his shower and dressed in his polo shirt and khakis, assumed Karen was caught in the weekend rush at the grocery store. When 1 hour turned into 2, he began calling her cell phone. No answer. By hour 3, with 2 increasingly anxious children and a knot forming in his stomach, Tom drove to Super Savers. Karen's Honda sat abandoned in the far corner of the strip mall parking lot, driver's door slightly ajar, her purse still on the passenger seat. "I need to report a missing person," Tom said to the police officer at the station front desk 4 hours after Karen had left home. His voice cracked. "My wife. She went for groceries and never came back." The next 48 hours passed in a blur of police interviews, tearful phone calls to relatives, and frantic searches through the neighborhood. Emily clung to her father's leg, wide-eyed and silent, while Noah asked the same question over and over. "When is Mom coming home?" Detective Sandra Rivera led the investigation, her sharp eyes taking in every detail of the Myers home. "Mr. Myers, can you think of any reason your wife might leave on her own? Any problems at home? Financial troubles? Depression?" Tom shook his head, surrounded by sympathetic neighbors in his living room. "No, nothing like that. We were happy." His voice wavered. "Karen would never just leave the kids." By day 5, Karen's face was on every telephone pole in town, on the local news, and in the papers. Mother of 2 vanishes from grocery store parking lot. The grainy photo showed her laughing at last year's 4th of July barbecue, her blonde hair catching the sunlight. Weeks turned into months. While Tom sat for polygraph tests passed, and provided DNA samples, the investigation hit dead end after dead end. No credit card activity. No cell phone pings. No sightings. Karen Myers had vanished without a trace. 1 year after Karen's disappearance, the search had grown cold. The police file remained open but inactive. Detective Rivera still called occasionally, but with less conviction in her voice. "Daddy, is Mommy in heaven?" Emily asked one night as Tom tucked her into bed, surrounded by stuffed animals Karen had given her. Tom's eyes welled with tears. "I don't know, sweetie. I hope not." Noah, now 9, had stopped asking questions altogether. His 4th grade teacher called Tom for a conference about his sudden withdrawal in class, his outbursts of anger on the playground. "Children process grief differently," the school counselor explained gently. "Noah is angry because he doesn't understand why his mother left. He needs stability right now." "Stability." The word echoed in Tom's mind as he sat alone in the kitchen that night, staring at Karen's untouched coffee mug still in the dish drainer. How could he provide stability when his own world had been shattered? 3 years after Karen vanished, Tom met Rebecca at a parent-teacher conference at Emily's school. She was the new art teacher, with kind eyes and a patient smile. When she heard about Tom's situation, she offered to help with the children after school. Slowly, carefully, a new relationship blossomed. "You can't replace Mom," Noah shouted when Tom announced his intention to marry Rebecca. At 11, his grief had hardened into a defensive shell. He slammed his bedroom door, rattling the family photos in the hallway. Emily, 8 and desperate for motherly affection, was more accepting but confused. "Does this mean we stop looking for Mommy?" "Never," Tom promised, kneeling to her level. "We will never stop looking for your mother." But as the years passed, the active searching did stop. The annual press conferences grew smaller, then ceased altogether. Karen's parents aged with grief, her father passing away without ever knowing what happened to his daughter. Her sister moved across the country, unable to bear the constant reminders. The Myers family fractured along the fault lines of its tragedy. While Rebecca tried her best to create a loving home, Noah retreated further into himself, excelling academically but emotionally distant. Emily developed an obsessive interest in true crime, covering her bedroom walls with missing persons cases and keeping a detailed journal of her mother's case. By the 10th anniversary of Karen's disappearance, her face had been digitally aged on missing persons websites. The family rarely spoke her name aloud, though her absence shaped everything about them. Tom had built a successful accounting practice. Rebecca had given birth to a son, Christopher, who would never know his half-sibling's mother. The house on Maple Street had been sold, too full of memories. On rare occasions, usually after too many drinks at family gatherings, relatives would whisper theories. Maybe she had another family somewhere. Maybe she was in witness protection. Maybe Tom wasn't as innocent as everyone thought. Karen became a ghost who haunted family photographs, her image growing more faded with each passing year. Emily, now 15, kept her mother's hairbrush in her nightstand drawer. Noah, 18 and preparing for college, claimed he could barely remember her face. 20 years is a long time for a mystery to remain unsolved. 20 years is forever when you're waiting for someone to come home from the grocery store. None of them could have imagined that the answer was about to find them. Emily Myers stared at the ceiling of her apartment, watching the shadows from passing cars dance across the paint. At 25, she still couldn't sleep through the night. Her therapist called it unresolved trauma. Emily called it normal. How could anyone sleep soundly when such an enormous piece of their life remained missing? Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. 3:14 a.m. Unknown number. Probably a wrong number, but Emily had never been able to ignore a ringing phone. 20 years of hoping for news had conditioned her like one of Pavlov's dogs. "Hello?" she answered, voice thick with sleep. "Is this Emily Myers?" The woman's voice was professional, with a hint of an accent Emily couldn't place. "Yes. Who's calling at this hour? I apologize for the time. My name is Dr. Marissa Jimenez from Desert Valley Medical Center in Arizona. We have a patient here who was brought in after a car accident yesterday. Her fingerprints and preliminary DNA match to a missing persons case from 2005. A Karen Myers." Emily sat bolt upright, suddenly wide awake. Her heart hammered against her ribs. That's my mother." The words felt strange on her tongue. For years, she'd referred to Karen in the past tense. Is she alive?" "Yes, she's stable. She has several fractures and a concussion, but she's conscious." The doctor paused. "Ms. Myers, I should prepare you. The patient doesn't go by Karen. She identifies herself as Lena Carter. She doesn't seem to recognize the name Karen Myers." Emily's hand trembled so badly she nearly dropped the phone. "I'm coming. I'll be on the next flight." Noah Myers was in the middle of a quarterly budget presentation when his sister's text lit up his phone. "Emergency. Call me now. They found MOM." He excused himself, ignoring the confused looks from his colleagues, and called Emily from the hallway. "This better not be another false lead," were his first words. They'd been down this road before, supposed sightings, psychic visions, internet sleuths claiming to have solved the case. "It's real this time." Emily's voice trembled with excitement. "Desert Valley Medical Center in Arizona has a woman whose fingerprints match Mom's. She was in a car accident. She's calling herself Lena Carter." Noah leaned against the wall, suddenly lightheaded. "Did you tell Dad?" "Not yet. I wanted to call you first." "Don't tell him," Noah said sharply. "Not until we know for sure. He and Rebecca don't need this if it's nothing." 4 hours later, Noah met Emily at Boston Logan International Airport. His sister had already booked their flights to Phoenix. She carried a small overnight bag and a thick manila folder, what she called her evidence file, on their mother's case. "I brought old photos," she explained, "and some of Mom's things. Her favorite perfume. The silver bracelet Dad gave her for their 5th anniversary." Noah nodded, admiring his sister's preparedness while feeling his own emotional walls rising. He'd spent 20 years carefully constructing those walls, brick by brick, to protect himself from exactly this kind of hope. Desert Valley Medical Center sat on the outskirts of a small town called Copper Canyon, surrounded by the rust-red mesas of the Arizona desert. The sterile hospital corridors felt surreal to Emily and Noah as Dr. Jimenez led them toward the patient's room. "The woman we're calling Lena Carter was found in a rolled-over vehicle about 10 miles outside town," the doctor explained. "Her ID shows she's lived in Copper Canyon for nearly 18 years. She works as a bookkeeper at a local construction company." "And you're certain it's our mother?" Noah asked, his lawyer's skepticism showing through. "The fingerprints are a match to the prints in your mother's missing persons file. We've sent for more comprehensive DNA testing, but that will take a few days." They stopped outside room 214. Through the small window in the door, Emily could see a woman with silver-streaked hair lying in the bed, her face turned toward the window. "She doesn't know you're coming," Dr. Jimenez warned. "Her memory is complicated. She insists her name is Lena Carter and has no recollection of a life in Connecticut. She became agitated when we mentioned the name Karen Myers." Emily's hand found Noah's, squeezing hard. "We've waited 20 years," she whispered. "We can handle whatever's on the other side of that door." Noah wasn't so sure, but he nodded anyway. The woman in the hospital bed turned as they entered, her eyes, Karen's eyes, their mother's unmistakable hazel eyes, widening with confusion. Her face was lined now, her once blonde hair faded to ash and silver, but the curve of her cheek, the shape of her mouth, it was her. It was Karen. "Mrs. Carter," Dr. Jimenez said gently, "these people have come a long way to see you." The woman studied them, her brow furrowed. No recognition flashed across her face, no tears of reunion. She simply looked puzzled. "I'm sorry," she said in a voice that was both familiar and strange to Emily's ears. "Do I know you?" Emily stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. "Mom," she whispered. "It's me. It's Emily." The woman called Lena Carter blinked slowly. "I think you have the wrong room. I don't have children." Behind Emily, Noah made a choked sound. 20 years of emotional armor cracked in an instant. Their mother was alive, but the woman who had made blueberry pancakes on Sunday mornings and kissed their foreheads before school was gone. The neurologist's office was painted a calming blue, with diplomas lining the walls and a model of a human brain sitting on the desk. Dr. Eliza Wilson studied the brain scans displayed on her computer screen while Emily and Noah waited anxiously. "Lena, or Karen as you know her, has what we call dissociative amnesia," Dr. Wilson explained, turning to face them. "It's typically triggered by severe psychological trauma. The mind essentially creates a firewall around traumatic memories, sometimes blocking out entire portions of identity." "So she's not faking it?" Noah asked, his voice tight. Part of him had been clinging to the idea that this was all some elaborate con, that his mother had abandoned them willingly. Anger was easier than the alternative. "No, Mr. Myers. These brain patterns are consistent with genuine memory loss. Dr. Wilson's voice was gentle but firm. Your mother's hippocampus, the part of the brain that processes memory, shows signs of an old injury, possibly from physical trauma around the time she disappeared. Emily leaned forward. Can she get her memories back? It's possible. Memory isn't stored in one place like a computer file. It's distributed throughout the brain. Often, sensory triggers, familiar scents, sounds, images, can help reconnect those neural pathways. That afternoon, Emily and Noah returned to Lena's hospital room armed with their mother's favorite perfume, family photos, and Emily's old teddy bear that Karen had sewn herself. Lena Carter regarded them warily. The initial shock of their appearance had settled into cautious curiosity. The doctors tell me you believe I'm your mother. We don't just believe it, Emily said gently. We know it. Your fingerprints match. And look, she held out a photo of Karen holding newborn Emily in the hospital. That's you? Lena studied the photograph with a clinical detachment, as if examining evidence of someone else's life. I can see the resemblance, but I don't remember any of this. She handed the photo back. I'm sorry. Noah, who had been hanging back by the door, stepped forward. Do you remember anything from before 2005? Lena frowned. My memories from before Copper Canyon are fuzzy. I remember waking up in a motel room with a terrible headache. I had no ID, no money except some cash in my pocket. I thought maybe I'd been in an accident or robbed. She touched a small scar near her temple. I started over. Got a job waiting tables, then learned bookkeeping. Built a life. You never tried to find out who you were? Noah couldn't keep the accusation from his voice. I did at first. But no one was looking for a Lena Carter, and I didn't know to look for a Karen Myers. Her eyes grew distant. After a while, it seemed easier to just be Lena. 3 days into their stay, as Emily sat reading aloud from a book Karen had loved, something changed. She had reached a passage about lilacs in bloom when Lena suddenly inhaled sharply. Lilacs, she whispered. Purple lilacs under a window. Emily's hands trembled on the book. Yes. We had lilac bushes under the kitchen window. You used to cut them and put them in blue vases all over the house. Lena shook her head, frustrated. It's just a flash. Like a photograph someone showed me, not a memory I lived. But it was a start. The next breakthrough came when Noah, reluctantly drawn into the process, hummed a lullaby Karen had sung to them as children. Lena's eyes filled with tears she couldn't explain. When I woke up in that motel, she admitted later, that melody was in my head. I thought it was from a radio. Dr. Wilson encouraged them. These are good signs. The neural pathways are still there, just dormant. On day 7, Emily brought a notebook she'd kept as a child. She read from her childish handwriting. Today Mom and I made cookies, but I spilled the flour and it looked like snow on the floor. Lena stared at the looping letters, then suddenly clutched her head. I see it, she gasped. White powder everywhere, and you laughing. Her eyes widened in shock. I see you. Small, with pigtails. Emily couldn't speak through her tears. Later that evening, Lena described her first coherent memory, a dark alley, someone yelling, being shoved hard against a wall. The crack of her head against brick. Then nothing until the motel room. I thought I'd been mugged, she explained. My wallet was gone. I had a terrible headache for weeks. As the fragments slowly assembled, Dr. Wilson brought in a trauma specialist. Together, they helped Lena navigate the emerging patchwork of memories, some mundane, others disturbing. She recalled a man's angry face, but couldn't place him. She remembered the smell of gasoline and fear. It's like trying to watch a movie with most of the scenes cut out, Lena explained in frustration. By the second week, Lena was having vivid dreams, nightmares really, that left her shaking and disoriented. I'm running from someone, she told the doctors. Someone I trusted. Noah and Emily exchanged worried glances. They had deliberately avoided mentioning their father, following Dr. Wilson's advice to let memories return naturally. On the morning of the 17th day, Emily arrived at the hospital to find Lena sitting up in bed, pale and wide-eyed. "I remember the grocery list," she said, her voice barely audible. "Fruit rolls with blue wrappers. Chocolate milk." Emily's breath caught. "Mom?" Lena looked up, recognition finally dawning in her eyes. But with it came something else, pure, undiluted fear. "I remember who I was running from," she whispered. "And you can't tell the children. I need to speak with Dr. Wilson alone," Karen insisted, no longer comfortable being called Lena now that fragments of her true identity had returned. Her hands trembled on the hospital blanket. "Please, Emily." Emily hesitated, reluctant to leave now that her mother had finally recognized her. "Whatever you remember, we can face it together. Not this." Karen's eyes darted to the door. "Please." Reluctantly, Emily stepped outside. Through the small window, she watched her mother speaking intensely to Dr. Wilson, the doctor's expression growing more grave with each passing minute. When Noah arrived 20 minutes later, Emily was still waiting in the hallway. "What's going on?" he asked, noting her agitation. She remembered something. Something bad. Emily paced the narrow corridor. "She won't tell me what it is." Dr. Wilson emerged from the room, her professional demeanor firmly in place despite the tension in her shoulders. "Your mother has requested that I not share what she's told me. Doctor-patient confidentiality. She's been missing for 20 years, Noah argued. "We have a right to know. That's for her to decide." Dr. Wilson's voice softened. "She's been through a significant trauma, and remembering it is almost like experiencing it again. Give her some time." For 3 days, Karen refused to discuss what she had remembered. She worked with the hospital's psychologist for hours, emerging from sessions exhausted and tearful. She accepted Emily's presence but grew quiet whenever Noah visited. "She's afraid of me," Noah realized after one particularly strained visit. "Why would she be afraid of me?" Emily had a sinking feeling. "You look like Dad now. Same height, same build. Your voice even sounds like his sometimes." On the 4th morning, Emily arrived at the hospital to find Karen dressed in her own clothes instead of a hospital gown, sitting in a chair by the window. "I'm checking out today," Karen announced. "Dr. Wilson thinks I'm stable enough." "That's great. I found a short-term rental near." "I'm not going back to Connecticut," Karen interrupted. "Not yet." Emily sat down heavily. "Mom, please. Talk to me. What are you so afraid of?" Karen stared out at the desert landscape, so different from the lush Connecticut suburb where she had raised her children. "I was going to leave him," she said finally, her voice barely audible. "Your father. I had discovered something terrible, and I was planning to take you both and go." Emily felt the floor tilt beneath her. "Leave Dad? Why?" Karen turned, her eyes haunted. "He was having an affair with his assistant. But that wasn't the worst part. He had taken out massive loans in my name, emptied our retirement accounts. We were on the edge of financial ruin, and he had hidden it all from me." Emily struggled to reconcile this image with the father she knew, strict but dependable, the man who had held their family together after tragedy struck. "That day, I wasn't just going for groceries," Karen continued. "I was meeting with a lawyer who had agreed to see me on a Saturday. Your father found my notes, my plans. He followed me to the strip mall." "Dad was there?" Emily whispered. Karen nodded, tears streaming down her face. "He confronted me in the parking lot. He was furious, desperate. We argued. He grabbed my arm." She touched a spot on her wrist, as if the bruise still lingered there 20 years later. "I broke free and ran. I just wanted to get away from him, to clear my head. And then what happened? I ran down an alley behind the stores. That's where the mugger found me, a random opportunist who saw a distressed woman with a purse. He shoved me against the wall. My head hit the brick." Karen touched the small scar near her temple. "I woke up 2 days later in a motel 3 towns over. No ID, no memory." Emily felt sick. "So Dad didn't," Hurt you intentionally? No. But he never told the police about our fight. He let them believe I had simply vanished. Instead of admitting he was the reason I ran into that alley, he built this whole narrative of the devoted husband searching for his missing wife. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. Why the police had found nothing. Why no ransom demands ever came. Why the trail went completely cold. How could he do that? Emily whispered. I think he believed I had arranged my own disappearance to escape him, Karen said. In his mind, he was protecting himself from suspicion. Maybe he even thought I would come back once I'd calmed down. She shook her head bitterly. Instead, he destroyed any chance you had of finding me. Emily sat in stunned silence, 20 years of family history rewriting itself in her mind. The father who had seemed so broken by his wife's disappearance had been the catalyst for it. The mystery that had consumed their family had been built on a foundation of lies. Does Noah know? She finally asked. No. Karen's face crumpled. How can I tell him? How can I tell either of my children that the father who raised them let them believe I was dead or worse, when he could have helped find me? Emily took her mother's hand, feeling the unfamiliar calluses that 20 years of a different life had left there. We tell him together, she said. And then we decide what to do about Dad. Karen looked at her daughter, seeing not the 5-year-old she remembered but a strong, determined young woman formed in the crucible of abandonment. I never stopped loving you, she whispered. Even when I couldn't remember you existed, there was always this emptiness. I know, Mom. Emily squeezed her hand. I never stopped looking for you either. The Myers family home in the Hartford suburbs looked exactly as Noah and Emily had left it. Manicured lawn, American flag by the door, Rebecca's carefully tended flower beds lining the walkway. From the outside, it screamed normalcy, stability, the perfect second chapter of a family that had overcome tragedy. Noah's hands shook as he turned off the ignition. Are you sure about this? He asked Emily. We could wait, approach this differently. 20 years is long enough. Emily replied, clutching the manila folder containing Karen's medical records, psychological evaluation, and handwritten account of what she remembered. He's had 2 decades to tell the truth. They had left Karen in Arizona, both to continue her recovery and to avoid the shock of her sudden reappearance. The plan was simple: confront their father, see his reaction, decide together how to proceed. Rebecca answered the door, surprise lighting her face. Noah, Emily! Tom didn't mention you were visiting. She hugged them each in turn, the stepmother who had tried so hard to fill an impossible void. Come in, your father's in his study. The familiar scent of the house, lemon furniture polish, the cinnamon candles Rebecca favored, made Emily's stomach twist. How much of their life here had been built on a foundation of lies? Tom Myers looked up from his desk, reading glasses perched on his nose, hair more gray than brown now. At 62, he had the comfortable look of a man who had weathered life's storms and come out intact. His face brightened at the sight of his children. This is a nice surprise. Is everything okay? Noah couldn't speak, the rehearsed words dying in his throat. It was Emily who placed the folder on the desk. We found Mom, she said simply. Tom's face went blank, then cycled rapidly through confusion, disbelief, and something darker that confirmed Emily's worst fears. What do you mean, found her? His voice was carefully controlled. Your mother disappeared 20 years ago. She's alive, Dad. Noah found his voice at last. She's been living in Arizona under the name Lena Carter. She has dissociative amnesia from a head injury. Tom removed his glasses slowly, deliberately. That's impossible. Emily opened the folder, laid out the brain scans, the fingerprint match, the hospital report. It's her. She's starting to remember things. She paused, watching her father carefully. Including what happened the day she disappeared. The color drained from Tom's face. Whatever she thinks she remembers after 20 years. She remembers the fight in the parking lot. Emily cut in. She remembers running from you. She remembers why she was leaving in the first place. Tom's eyes darted to the door as if gauging an escape route. Through the window, they could see Rebecca in the garden, oblivious to the family earthquake happening inside. "You don't understand," he said finally. "It wasn't what it looked like." "Then explain it," Noah demanded, his voice rising. "Explain why you never told the police you had followed her, that you had confronted her, that she ran from you into that alley where she was attacked. I thought she had planned it." Tom's composure finally cracked. "I thought she had staged the whole thing to punish me. The purse left behind, the car door open, it looked deliberate. So you just let us believe she had been kidnapped? Finished?" Noah's voice shook with rage. "You let us spend 20 years wondering, searching, grieving?" Tom slumped in his chair. "By the time I realized she wasn't coming back, it was too late. How could I tell the police then? How could I tell you children that your mother was gone because of me?" Emily felt an eerie calm descend over her. "Mom said you were having an affair. That you had hidden debts, loans in her name." Tom flinched but didn't deny it. "The company was struggling. I made some bad investments. Diane, she was just a distraction, a mistake." He looked up, desperation in his eyes. "I loved your mother. I've spent 20 years looking for her." "No, you haven't," Emily replied coldly. "The annual press conferences, the private investigators, that was all for show. You were covering your tracks, making sure no one ever suspected you." "That's not true. I wanted to find her, to explain, to make it right." "You could have told the police about the fight," Noah said. "Given them her state of mind, the direction she ran. They might have found her before her memory was gone completely." Tom buried his face in his hands. "Where is she now? Is she coming back?" The fear in his voice was answer enough. He had never expected to face Karen again, to be held accountable for his actions. "She's recuperating in Arizona," Emily said. "She's deciding whether to press charges." "Charges?" Tom's head snapped up. "For what? I didn't attack her." "Obstruction of justice," Noah replied, the lawyer in him emerging. "Filing a false police report. Financial fraud, if what she says about the loans is true." Tom's face crumpled. "Please. You have to understand. I was desperate back then. Everything was falling apart. I made mistakes, terrible mistakes, but I've spent 20 years trying to be a good father, a good husband to Rebecca." Outside, Rebecca had stopped gardening and was watching the house, sensing something was wrong. 20 good years doesn't erase what you did," Emily said quietly. "Mom lost 20 years with her children because of your lies." "What are you going to do?" Tom whispered. Brother and sister exchanged a look, the weight of their shattered family history hanging between them. "That depends," Noah said, "on whether you're finally ready to tell the truth." 3 weeks later, Karen Myers stood in the kitchen of Emily's apartment, staring out the window at the unfamiliar Boston skyline. The woman in the reflection, hair cut short now, face lined with years she couldn't remember living, still sometimes felt like a stranger. "More tea?" Emily asked, hovering nearby as she had since Karen's arrival from Arizona 2 days ago. "I'm fine." Karen smiled weakly. "You don't have to take care of me, you know. 20 years to make up for," Emily replied. "I think I'm entitled to a little hovering." The doorbell rang. Noah had arrived with Rebecca and 14-year-old Christopher, the half-brother Emily and Noah barely knew. This would be Rebecca's first time meeting the woman whose shoes she had unknowingly filled. Karen smoothed her sweater, anxiety tightening her chest. "Are you sure this is a good idea?" "They wanted to come," Emily said gently. Rebecca insisted. The meeting was awkward at first, Christopher hanging back, eyeing the woman his father had been married to before his mother. Rebecca, to her credit, embraced Karen without hesitation. "I never tried to replace you," she said quietly. "I just tried to love them." "Thank you for that," Karen replied, meaning it. Whatever else had happened, her children had been cared for. Noah remained stiff, formal, still processing his anger at their father, his complicated feelings about the mother who was both familiar and a stranger. Have you decided? He asked when they were seated in Emily's living room. About pressing charges? Karen sighed. 2 days ago, Tom had confessed everything to the police: the affair, the financial deception, the confrontation in the parking lot, and the subsequent cover-up. Detective Rivera, now approaching retirement, had reopened the case file with grim satisfaction. The district attorney says there's enough for a case, even after all this time, Karen said. But it would mean dragging everything into public view. The press, the courts. Dad deserves that, Noah interrupted. He let us believe you were dead. He's still your father. Karen's voice was gentle. And Christopher's father. And Rebecca's husband. Rebecca stared at her hands. Tom told me everything. About the affair, the money. What he did. She looked up, eyes shining with tears. Our marriage has been built on a lie. I don't know what to do with that. Christopher, silent until now, suddenly spoke. Is Dad going to jail? The raw fear in the boy's voice cut through the room. Karen saw her own children in him, innocent victims of adult mistakes. That's what I'm trying to decide, she admitted. What serves justice without causing more pain? Later, after Rebecca and Christopher had left, Noah pulled out a folder of his own. Unlike Emily's medical evidence, his contained legal documents. I had our firm look into the financial aspects, he explained. Dad did take out loans in your name, but he paid them all back years ago. The company recovered. He's actually quite successful now. So this would all be about punishment, Karen mused. Not restitution. He deserves punishment, Noah insisted. And what would that accomplish? Karen asked quietly. Would it heal what was broken? Would it give me back those 20 years? Emily, who had been listening silently, finally spoke. Mom, what do you want? Not what's best for everyone else. What do you want? Karen considered the question seriously. As Lena Carter, she had built a simple, solitary life. As Karen Myers, she had loved being a mother more than anything. I want time with my children, she said finally. I want to know the adults you've become. I want peace, not more conflict. 1 week later, Karen stood in the parking lot of what had once been the Super Savers grocery store, now a hardware emporium. The asphalt had been repaved, the storefronts renovated, yet the mountains visible in the distance were unchanged, eternal witnesses to the human dramas below. Emily stood beside her, their breath fogging in the Connecticut autumn air. This is where it happened, Karen said quietly. The last place I existed as your mother for 20 years. The district attorney had offered Tom Myers a deal, a public statement admitting his role in his wife's disappearance, significant community service, and financial restitution to Karen. In exchange, no prison time. Karen had accepted. Tom's reputation in Westfield was in tatters. The respected businessman, the grieving husband who had persevered, was revealed as a fraud. Some friends had cut ties, others reserved judgment. The local paper had run the story on its front page. Do you regret coming back? Emily asked, watching her mother's face. Karen considered the question. As Lena, she had lived without the weight of past trauma, without the complexities of family. As Karen, she had returned to a world of pain, betrayal, and difficult choices. No, she said finally. Lena's life was easier, but it wasn't mine. It wasn't real. Noah was waiting in the car, still struggling with forgiveness but trying, for his mother's sake. Rebecca had moved out temporarily, taking Christopher, needing space to decide her own path forward. We can't go back to how things were, Karen continued. None of us. But maybe we can build something new from here. Emily slipped her hand into her mother's, the simple gesture they had both been denied for 2 decades. I used to dream you would come back, she admitted. But I never imagined it would be like this. Karen squeezed her daughter's hand. Life rarely gives us the endings we expect. Together, they walked away from the place where their family had fractured, step by step, toward whatever uncertain future awaited them, a broken family with a second chance, navigating the delicate balance between truth and healing, between justice and mercy, between the past that had shaped them and the future they would build together. Not an ending, but a beginning. Not perfection, but possibility.